Hello and welcome back to the podcast. Our motto has always been own your health and run your life. But here's the truth. You can't really run your life if you are constantly reacting to a health crisis after it happens. Far too often, the system that we rely on, from our standard medical testing to conventional wellness advice, aren't really built to help us take true ownership of our health. They're really designed to react to the problems after the damage is already done. Taking true ownership means getting ahead of that curve. It's about questioning the status quo and exploring the science behind the choices that we make every day. So, making precision changes before things become costly or chronic or even irreversible. In this series, we're going to be digging into the full spectrum of your health, from metabolic mastery to gut health, movement, stress regulation, and so much more, to help you stop guessing and to start building a life of proactive, optimal health. And today's episode is, what are mitochondria and how do they affect your hormones? And I'm your host, Maggie Tamez, a chef and Harvard certified nutrition planner, helping people to reverse diabetes and reclaim their identity. And I am blessed to be joined today by Lavern Dennis, a lifestyle transformation coach who helps boomers to naturally overcome chronic inflammation and reclaim the freedom to enjoy life fully. And Amarilys Lopez. She is a weight loss coach and a former IT analyst, guiding people to help break free of the yo-yo dieting cycle and be able to live fully active. So we're going to be discussing mitochondria, and I'd love to start with, when you think of mitochondria, what does that really mean to you? Because I think a lot of people think about it and they're like, I don't know, it's a thing. So I'm going to open it up and I'm going to start with Amarilys. I see her hand up. She's ready to go. When you think about mitochondria, what are they?
Before I dive into what I think about, when that word mitochondria brings me to biology class when I was in high school. And we had to do this little experiment of doing, I think it was with Play-Doh, the cells and the mitochondria. And I don't know about you guys, but it was complex because there were so many little things that make up just one of our cells, and our bodies is made of how many cells?
Yeah.
A couple, hundreds, millions.
I think we actually are in the trillions.
In the trillions?
But
okay.
Yeah,
don't quote me
it's
on
a
that.
lot.
It's a big number. And back then when I was in high school, it seemed complex. But what is it in a nutshell? It's just the vehicle responsible for energy.
So
for creating the energy.
I love that you said that. And I want to kind of go into that. So for me, I think it is really easy to make it simple. If we think about mitochondria as being a symbiotic relationship, so they are a little gut bug. They are our friendly friend that helps us to produce energy, but they are technically their own living organism that lives within us, and that's what their job is. And they are in that symbiotic relationship. We have to feed them certain foods and fuel so that they can go through their process, and their waste is our energy. So they take all of these nutrients that we ingest in, and then they produce energy out. And I think if you think of mitochondria in that way, at least that's the way that I think of mitochondria. I always think of them, because I'm from that generation, as like little Sesame Street characters. And so, but you can picture them in any way that you want to. But I think the important part, at least for me, is that you have to understand what it is that they eat in order to produce the energy that we need. And then we'll get into it a little bit more later on, talking about like how we take care of them. But Lavern, how about you? What do you think of when you think of mitochondria? What does mitochondria mean to you?
When I think of mitochondria, I think of powerhouse. I feel that the mitochondria is what converts our foods to energy. And many times, and of course, that means that we want to eat the proper foods. We don't just want to eat. We want to eat foods that is helping to sustain and give us the good energy, not just that word carb that we always talk about. But yeah, we want to eat healthy foods. And definitely, it's like our cell house. The mitochondria is the power plant. So if you can imagine having a power plant that brings in the energy into your house, for me, that's what when I think of mitochondria, that's what I think of. That's the vision that I get. That power plant.
I love that. And I'm going to throw a little story on there, if that's okay, because I love greeting people as sunshine. Hello, sunshine. And the reason why I started doing this a couple of years ago was because I was reading through a couple of papers, and they were talking about mitochondria and all of these things. And in a dark room, underneath a microscope, if you look at mitochondria, they actually do emanate light. So light is radiating from inside of us. And there's trillions of these little guys in there, these little powerhouses. So you emit light. It's a scientifically proven fact. So you are all little rays of sunshine that emit light for everyone else from your powerhouses. So I love that. I hope that really makes it clear for everybody who is joining and watching along. If you guys have questions, make sure you're putting those down in the comments. And we've talked about them being powerhouses. We've talked about them creating energy. And this is the term for that is ATP, right? So it's a acronym for a scientific term, but ATP is the power that mitochondria emit, that we use as fuel for our muscles, our hormones. They are a trigger that causes new reactions inside of our body to happen. And I think that can get really confusing for people at different times, especially when we're talking about how does this affect like our hormones and how that transitions. And Lavern was talking about it a moment ago, where she was talking about the right foods, not just any foods, and how that affects us. So I want to open it up to you guys. We're diving into what we consume determines kind of what the ATP, the energy that we get back out, and how our body can utilize that fuel. So when we are trying to support our mitochondria, what is your recommendation for how to eat, and why do you make that recommendation? Let's go, Amarilys.
So if you haven't heard one of our episodes about fasting, it all starts with actually what not to eat. Because when we're fasting, we have, we just ingested something that's going to be converted to energy that we can use as fuel. But when we are fasting, I don't know if you guys have heard about glucose or insulin, the hormones, right? So when we're fasting, that actually drops, their glucose levels drops. And then the mitochondria and the ATP are able to use the fat, if you have any fat stored, instead for energy. So how amazing is the body that not only it can use it to convert it to a cleaner energy fuel than from foods.
So I want to dive into that. So when we're talking about fuels, what not to eat and all of that, and the mitochondria's ability to be able to convert stored fat, I think we need to go a little bit more in depth with that. And I'm very excited about it. So your mitochondria is going to operate differently depending on what kind of food it's receiving. And how much mitochondria you have really determines where you're getting from, because it's a different process. It's a different mitochondria that is going to digest the glucose that is running through our blood sugar versus the mitochondria who is taking the fat, the stored fat, and converting that into it. And if your body is getting all of the energy it needs, and it really does not need to go and consume the fat, it's going to continually create and replicate your gut buddies, the mitochondria, who are processing your sugar, the glucose in your blood. And it's not going to create the mitochondria that are going to break down your fat stores and convert those into energy. So if you think about it, your body is full of trillions of them, but in each little area, it can only hold so many. I think about this like nightclubs, right? Like you can have a lot of nightclubs down the street, but if everybody is always going to the glucose nightclub, then the bar at the end of the street that's converting fat is not going to hire more people to come in. I know I shouldn't be using alcoholic establishments for this example, but
we can get mocktails there too.
You can get mocktails there. Yeah. Maybe the one at the end it's a smoothie bar. That's what it is. It's a smoothie bar at the end of the road that's converting the fat. And because everybody is going to the nightclub that's serving all of the sugary drinks, it's only hiring waitresses to work at the sugary drink, and that's all it does. And so then when you want to burn fat, the smoothie bar at the end of that hires the waitresses that will burn the fat is like, we only have enough waitresses to convert 2. Right? And that's all you get because you don't have the mitochondria. If you stop taking in the sugar and it has to convert the fat, then it's going to be like, oh, well, we can only convert 2. Ooh, 2 was not enough. Maybe we should hire some more waitresses. And then it'll make some more mitochondria that will break down the fat into energy. The more frequently that you tell your body that you want it to break down the fat to make the energy, the more waitresses it will hire for the smoothie bar at the end of the street. And if you're not giving it the opportunity, it's never going to hire those waitresses. So I hope that that explanation, that story makes sense as far as getting your mitochondria set up and why what not to eat, like Amarilys was talking about, is so important for us to be able to support our mitochondria and the right kind of mitochondria inside of our body. So thank you for giving me the time to share that little story.
Can I add something else about that?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So I see it in so many of my clients that, you know, they struggle with weight loss and keeping it off, that they're just focusing on what to eat. And it's like, but also that time that you don't eat as well. That's why, you know, I used it. I continually use fasting as an incredible tool to actually, instead of, because if we have fat storage, then why don't give, like, our body knows what to do. But if we don't give it the chance to actually do what the body knows what to do and to get those ATPs and mitochondria to work for us, then we don't stand a chance. And then that's why so many people get so frustrated, because they're not seeing results.
So Lavern, we've been droning on for a while. What have you got?
Well, I had to pause because we have a barking dog in the yard, so just pardon him. He does what he does. But I wanted to add how excessive sugar intake can affect and can contribute to the metabolic problems and inflammation. And one of the reasons why we always talk about decreasing your sugar load, or just being mindful, or even reading labels so you know what it is that you're getting, because you always want to make sure that you're getting the energy from the good source. And as Amarilys said, we don't necessarily have to worry about eating all the time, because that excess is there. And so, you know, when you're doing the fasting, the intermittent fasting, it's feeding off what you have already given the body, all the extra. And for people that are constantly eating, or those that are constantly snacking, like I used to be, yeah, it shows up elsewhere.
So that really is a great segue into the next little section that I want to get to. When we are talking about the mitochondria and how they affect our hormones, I think that this is an area that a lot of people are unsure of, like, how that works. So let's talk about that constant eating that Lavern was talking about a moment ago. When you are constantly eating, then your body constantly has to process what that comes out of. And in the example we gave a little bit earlier, we were talking about, you know, there are only so many mitochondria, and what it is that they have to do is affected by what is most important. So in a survival spectrum, let's go with that for now, the most important things are, what is it that is actually going to keep you alive? Being able to process any food that you have coming in is the number one survival thing. Because if you are not processing the food that is being taken in, that's just sitting there, and it is going to decompose whether we digest it or not. And if we are not digesting it and eliminating what our body can't use, that causes its own set of issues, right? So it's always going to send the energy there first, and then it will start to prioritize the next kind of things. Breathing is always going to be really high on the list, and then everything else kind of falls in priority underneath that, from thinking to exercising to movement to all of the conscious things that we do. But in the unconscious realm, hormone production falls lower on that survival list, because we can survive for an awful long period of time with out of balance hormones.
Mm-hmm.
But hormones can affect how we show up to all of these other things. So if the mitochondria is constantly being directed for other priorities, either something that we specifically want to go and do, or eating foods, digesting foods, breathing, thinking, stressing out, then the mitochondria are not going to spend their time creating the hormones that let us feel good, that let us enjoy different things. So how can we give our mitochondria the time to be able to produce the hormones that actually let us live better without long-term issues? And I'm going to open it up to you guys now. Come weigh in on my little nerdy facts.
Besides fasting?
Besides fasting. I have a really easy one, but I'm going to wait and see if you guys get it first.
So before I dive into, because you said something that sparked a thought, and I'm maybe gaining some time for Lavern so she can get an answer to this question. When you talked about, I think I lost my train of thought. I probably did. Okay, I'll come back. So Lavern.
You're muted, Lavern. So if you want to share, it'll be helpful if you unmute.
Yes. Some of the things that I'm sure would affect the hormonal loop are things like fatigue, persistent fatigue, brain fog, all of the things that happens when you have the.
So I want to dive in or interrupt for just a second, because I want to clarify, like the things that you're talking about right now, the brain fatigue or the brain fog and the fatigue, these are actually results of an imbalanced hormones, because your body is not producing the hormones, and then it's creating those symptoms.
Mm-hmm. Okay, can I?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so I was making the comparison with the imbalanced hormones, which is being caused again by excess sugar. So basically, the symptoms are quite similar. You know, back to the brain fog and the poor sleep habits and the changing in the appetites and the cravings and, you know, all the mood changes. It's amazing how the body works. It works with, you know, the hormones work with around the cravings. And if you start craving, then you create the problems with the hormone. It's like a seesaw type of thing. You know, you eat too much sugar, you start having problems in this area. And if you start balancing up, then everything starts creating a
I love that. Yeah.
That there's a word. The word just slipped me, but
the balance.
Equilibrium.
Equilibrium. Yeah.
Equilibrium, yes.
Yes.
Fancy word. Yeah. Or like balance. Yeah.
Yes.
I love that. So I got my thought back. So the body, it's amazing, right? It's so complex, but the reality is that, and you know, people talk about multitasking, right? And the body can do a lot of things, but when the body is digesting, he prioritizes that, right? So keep that in mind, that, and this is like, I think one of the greatest tip that I have incorporated. If I want to have a good night's sleep, my body should not be trying to digest. So leave a couple of hours before going to bed, so you'll feel the difference. You'll fall asleep faster and you will have a better sleep just by giving yourself 2-3 hours before of not intaking. You can still have your water, not too much, because then you'll probably wake up in the middle. And who wants to do that? To wake up in the middle of the
Nice.
of the night. Thank you, Lavern.
Yeah.
To go to the bathroom.
And
I
I am
wanna add to
so
that.
glad that you found that thought and brought that back in, because that's really one of the things that I wanted to talk about, is that if you give your body other things to do while you're trying to sleep, then it doesn't have the time to produce the hormones. And if you,
That growth hormone.
yeah,
Yes.
all of your hormones, like
Mhm.
that, when you are sleeping is the number one time
Muscle repair.
that
Like,
your body is creating hormones to repair muscles, to, you know, balance out your thyroid, you know, all of these different hormone triggers that needs to happen. That's when your body has a tendency to create
it's not
that.
just beauty sleep, like
But and one of the reasons why they suggest that you should be getting 6 to 8 hours, 8 hours optimally, is because your body needs all of that time to produce the hormones. So if you're only sleeping 3 hours a night and you're digesting the entire 3 hours that you're sleeping, no hormones are getting produced.
Mhm.
But if you digest before you go to bed, you spend 8 hours of sleep so that your body can create all of the hormones it needs for all of the different things, including collagen production, so that all of our fine lines and age. I mean, listen, I'm not going to say how old she is, but somebody on this panel just celebrated a birthday and does not look anywhere close to her age. But all of, you know, the wrinkle repair, the muscle growth, all of these things happen through hormones, signals, chemical signals that tell our body to do things. In that episode about fasting, we talk about autophagy, and that's what's happening during that process too, where it's breaking down old cells that are no longer functioning properly and disposing of them. And if we're not giving our body enough time to do that, it's not going to get rid of those cells. I'm going to do this as an opinion. This is not a medically educated thing. This is my guess and assumption based off of what I know. Not properly processing and using the process of autophagy to get rid of cells that aren't working properly is one of the leading contributors to cancer. And we all have heard of cancer. It is one of like the plagues of the modern age.
one of the 4 killers. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, we have to give our body time to produce the hormones through the mitochondria to do all of these processes that we never think about.
I'd
I
like
do
to,
have
I'd
a
like to talk about a couple things, something that Amarilys said, and back to what you were saying. Examples, personal examples in regards to eating and not allowing the time for the food to digest before sleep. And before I really got into wellness, I ate. But as I've gotten more mature in life, I realized when I ate and went to sleep, hot flashes.
Hmm.
So you know, you have to again listen to your body, know your body first, and then listen. Be your own, you know, advocate. The other thing is you mentioned about okay, that part went.
the sleep.
The sleep. Thank you, Amarilys. Many people talk about sleep. Oh, I don't need, oh, I'm fine. I really don't need that much sleep. I wake up and I'm feeling fine.
Five
But
hours
little
a
do
day.
they, right, 3-4 hours, they're talking about 4 hours and I'm good. But little do they know it happens slowly. It's a process. Things start breaking down. And then further down the road, we wonder, well, what happened? I mean, I was doing all the things. No, you weren't. You were not getting enough rest. You weren't giving
Yeah.
the body the opportunity to restore and repair and to take care of all the damages that you've created in the past. So sleep is so vital. So thank you, Maggie.
I do want to add something, and it might be a little bit contradictory, but the research actually, so we have all said, sleep 8 hours, but I've gotten into the rabbit hole of the cycles and all that, and really the newer recommendations are 7.5 or 9. That in the middle of 8, it's actually in the middle of the cycle. And if you are one of these people that uses the snooze button, I'm a recovering snooze button recoverer, that I would, I just have 5 minutes and go back to sleep. So I would wake up in middle of the cycle and I would feel like I didn't sleep anything. And it's because of that. So keep in mind that, if you're surviving, because that's what you're doing, right? You can say, I'm good, but if you're just doing 4 or 5 hours, you're just surviving. And we don't want to survive. We want to thrive. We want to be able to have the energy to keep up with life and to live fully active and be able to show up for our family, for ourselves, and for everybody that we are going to meet in the future.
True story. So Amarilys, can I ask you a quick clarifying question?
Yes.
Okay. So you said that they recommend either 7.5 hours or 9 hours. Correct. To end up in a cycle. So what you're saying is that the cycle runs about an hour and a half to run all the way through a cycle?
Correct. Yep.
All right. So there you guys go. In case you missed it, you've got to set up your sleep schedule so that you can wake up at your most refreshed to either be 7.5 or 9 hours. And that really means having a really good bedtime routine so that you are going to sleep at where that 7.5, 9 hours would begin in order to wake up at the time you want to wake up. So that was fantastic. Thank you for that, Amarilys. And honestly, these lead into like the next couple of questions that I had. So I'm just going to read through like the next 3 real quick, and then we can open it up for discussion.
Before you read through, Maggie, I'd like, when you said the bedtime routine, I'd like to be very specific with the bedtime routine, if you don't mind.
Well, let's do that in this next section. So here's the questions I want you guys to keep in mind and that we're going to try and answer. Can simple changes in what you eat fix your energy problems? Or do you always need to go see a doctor and get tests to find out how your body is reacting to it? How do tired cells make people feel more alone or less social? And how does the world around us signal our cells to change and send messages to our hormones? And I'm pretty sure what you're about to talk about is going to answer that third question. How does the world around us signal to cells to change the messages that it sends to our hormones? All right. Go.
As you said, can what we eat fix our energy problems? Yes. What we eat can definitely fix our energy problems, because we always, as I said before, we always want to strive for a healthy plate, colorful, that has all the nutrients and the vitamins and the fiber and your lean protein and not too much sugar. We also want to make sure that we, as you see us all drinking hot water, staying hydrated. Hydration is so very important for our cells, for our mitochondria. And then we want to do things, we want to overcome things like these things will help us to overcome things like thyroid problems and the anemia and all of these other disorders that come up because of that. So back to the person that was sleeping and said that, oh, that was enough. those 4 hours was enough. No, not so, because no, you pushing your body into experiencing different health challenges that you really don't need, that can be avoided. And this year, you don't have to go to the doctor to fix those. You could just take it upon yourself and say, you know what, I'm going to make that change. And if you don't know how to make the change, there's 3 ladies on here that can help you. But that change needs to be made so that you can live that healthy, independent life that we are all aspiring for.
Amarilys, you want to weigh in on one or more of those questions?
I'll come back to the other one later.
Yeah, I want to talk about the third one, about how can we set up and how the environment and how currently society really doesn't help us too much because of LEDs and lights and all that. I am blessed that, I my house right now, I have transitions, right? Getting better at that to actually have the right environment. Because, for example, I could say, yes, I'm going to have the plan. I'm going to go and my bedtime is at 10, 10:30, 11, let's say. But if I have a baseball stadium in my house with all those LED lights, you're going to have a lot of trouble getting into that bedtime. And then you will think that you're failing and it's so hard and you're not going to be able to do it, but because you're literally sabotaging yourself with being exposed to. And thank you, Maggie, for the dark mode. You said something that when you said that it helped with the strength of the straining of your eyes, that to me just something click. And I've been resistant using dark mode for so many years, and in just a moment I made the switch. All my devices now have dark mode in order to, those are all supports, right? We have you can have the routine, the plan, but all of these are little supports. The glasses, right? You probably have seen a couple people the yellow, orange glasses, because you want to block the blue lights. We need it, and it's interesting because we need it in the morning to get energized. It's not that we don't need it,
right,
but many people are being exposed to it after sundown, and then they wonder why they can't fall asleep.
Yeah. And it is funny to me that mitochondria are inside of our body, right? We do have some that are in our skin, but the vast majority of them are in there. But the external environment really does have so much effect on them, because our eyes, our skin, all of our hearing,
You're so confused.
all of
The
these
mitochondria are so confused.
they send messages all throughout our body. And so if our eyes are constantly taking in, sunlight, blue light, bright lights, it is constantly signaling to our mitochondria that we are in that. Same with sound. This is a big one. People don't realize that how loud your environment is affects your mitochondria, because if you are constantly hearing sounds, then at a subconscious level, there are other things happening in this world, which means that I need to be more alert and ready to go in case I am in danger, right? And so if you have sounds that are going on all night long, I used to be really guilty of leaving the TV on all night and just letting it play. And I thought I was doing fine because it was documentaries. It wasn't, interesting shows, but that sound didn't help. I still enjoy a documentary, but now I use my sleep timers. TVs have sleep timers. Did you know that? So you can set it to go off at certain periods of time. So it's not continuously playing all night. But our skin, the temperature of our environment, this also affects our mitochondria, whether it's hot, cold, warm, what the temperature is in your environment when you are awake and trying to exercise and do things, or when you are asleep, it affects the mitochondria, which is why things like using saunas or cold plunges can have some serious health benefits, because it sends a different signal to our mitochondria to produce different chemical reactions.
I love that. And I love that you mentioned, what is it that you mentioned with the bedtimes?
The sleep timer on the TV?
Thank you very much. Okay. So I met so many people that, I can only go to sleep listening to the TV.
Yeah.
How many people, right? That
I was one.
Yeah. And at least for me, I wasn't. I did sleep. I did stay up very late watching TV. So that's a whole nother story. But what can you do? Because some people find it that they kind of need something, right? Some kind of sound. But the thing with the TV is that your brain is still being stimulated. So
Yes.
noise is actually a better, or a fan, right? Something that it's soothing, but it's not actually like your body, your brain is not actually trying to signal anything back to it. Yeah, go ahead, Maggie.
As a recovering TV-aholic,
Doesn't work
sleep,
for you?
can I share?
Of course.
Go
what
ahead.
I changed that
Yes.
helped that. So for me, and this may not be true for everybody, but it might be true for you, I had trouble falling asleep in silence, because when it was really silent, my brain would get really active and it would start replaying what if and what might happen and
Or what you didn't do, or stuff
what
like
I
that.
didn't do. It was full of should-haves and what ifs and regret and fear. Essentially, it all kind of comes back to fear. For me, what really helped that process was putting away some time where I could write down all of my thoughts, all of my fears, all of my what ifs, and then the process of writing them out, journaling. So many people talk about journaling at night, in the morning, helps you put these things into a place where your brain finds it easier to let go of them, because now you have it there. You don't have to replay it again.
It's not going to get lost.
It's not going to get lost. It's not going to get forgotten. And you can tell your brain, because listen, it is us, but it is also a separate entity that sometimes we have to direct, because there may or may not be multiple personalities up in there.
True.
But you can tell it, I have it here. I can set it aside for right now. And then tomorrow I can look at these things. I can make a plan. I can do whatever it is. And it helps release that. And then I still like calming. I like to give my brain something else to do. So I will go watch a documentary on nature, animals, history, whatever that happens to be. Sometimes it's dark matter, because that's the kind of nerd that I am. And then that gives my brain a problem to think about or solve or work on that honestly has nothing to do with my personal survival. So the outcome is completely detached and it's easy to put away. And so I will do that. I turn on my sleep timer, and then more often than not, before that hour episode is finished, I'm done. That's my tip.
Many times, I should say, a lot of sleep experts are now saying that we should step away from the blue lights 2 to 3 hours before. And I know for many of us, that's not practical. So as Maggie was suggesting, start journaling. Start, it might seem like 2 hours might seem like a long time, but by the time you finish doing some journaling, doing some breathing exercises, you would have already taken that nice bath. It doesn't have to be a cold plunge. It's a nice bath. And ladies, I'm chuckling about the cold plunge because there's a story behind that, by the way. And then start bringing it down, whether or not it's going to be some relaxing meditation music, or sometimes people have a water, like a water funk going, songs going off in the background. For me, I personally like no noise, no songs. And that's only something that has happened since I've gotten more mature in life. And many times you're in environments that you can't prevent that. You can't get around it. So get yourself some earplugs, some good earplugs. And I'm not talking about earbuds where you're going to be hearing your phone ringing and all that other stuff. I'm talking about earbuds. I mean, earplugs. Just plug them up. And if you're sensitive to light, put some eye mask on. And when I do that, I find that I can get that 7.5 to 8. If I don't do that, and where I am right now, with the dogs barking in the back, 4 hours might be max. So when I do all of those, take all those steps consciously, I get a good night's sleep. And what is better than a good night's sleep? To wake up in the morning refreshed, revitalized, and ready to go, and to just say yes to life. You cannot say yes to life when you're tired, when you're sleepy, when you're groggy, and you're just trying to feed your face because you're tired and you're trying to overcome it.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I want to throw a couple of things in, and then I think Amarilys has something that she wants to say. To get us closer, right? Because going cold turkey for a lot of people can be really difficult, and we can feel like it's overwhelming and challenging. So if you can't go straight from watching TV all night into complete darkness, complete silence, because new can also be scary, and scary can make us feel more alert and have trouble going to sleep. You can do little steps. For example, I talk about how I still watch documentaries, but what I forgot to mention is that I don't do that on my TV. That now comes across my phone, which is a much smaller screen. I have it that is turned away from me. And a lot of the ones that I watch actually only have something on the screen for the first 15 minutes of it, and then it'll go to a black screen, but you still have the voices talking about things that are going on.
So you're not watching it, you're only listening to it.
So you really end up only listening to it. You're not actually watching it. So if you are trying to make that transition to get yourself more sleep, starting from being someone who watches TV late into the night, start taking some of those baby steps. Well, can I move it from my TV onto my phone? Can I move it from, I don't know, watching an NCIS episode to watching
Law and Order? It's like,
the Law and Order, whatever that is for you. Because listen, I know binge watching. Don't try and go to sleep every night watching Game of Thrones. Just don't do it. But can I move it to my phone? Can I move it from a show that I really like to a show that I find interesting, but not as much, right? Or, and then how can you baby step your way into giving yourself the environment that's going to let you get the 7.5 or 9 hours of sleep that Amarilys has educated us about.
Thank you for those baby steps, Maggie. I like those.
Yeah. So I think you guys you mentioned it briefly, but one of the things also, it's about, one of the recommendation is to have it dark, right? And the darker it is, it's the better.
Yes.
So the caveat with that, with me, is that, and I don't have them yet, but so I have this window that's on downstairs, and then I leave it open. It when from my room, I don't see it, but then when the sunlight comes, I can feel it. And I also have a little device that mimics the sun. I do have that too. But I wanted to add is about, when I was growing up, I was afraid of the dark. I'm not afraid to say that. And I would always have to have some kind of light and big lights. But slowly, with those baby steps, I can literally say that, yeah, I don't even think I own. The only night lights that I have now are red lights. Because if I have to go to the bathroom, then I don't want, because even those night lights, they can, if you're a little like one eye open and it's 2 a.m. kind of a thing, and you're trying to go down the stairs, and then you see that light, you might not be able to go back to sleep. And when it's a red light, it's just so soothing that it's just enough that you will not fall off, but it won't get you alerted, right? Because if you wake up in the middle of the night, that's okay. It could happen. But so many times people say that happens and they go back to their phones. It's like, oh, I don't know, I cannot fall asleep, and they're in their phones. It's like you're making it very hard on yourself. And
that might be part of the problem.
Yes, and one of the things that also Lavern mentioned, like, for example, I deter as much as possible not to use electronics 1 or 2 hours before going to bed, but there's sometimes it happens. But I have my glasses, I have the bedtime filter, so I have different tools within the tools. So the main tool would be the phone.
Yeah.
And so in order to protect myself as much as possible, I'm not going empty-handed and just seeing all these LEDs in the middle of the night. Like, I'm not doing that anymore, because I know that it will affect my sleep.
I love that. So, any other things before we wrap up?
I want to say, just in wrapping up, that our bodies are constantly responding to signals from the outside. And if we're talking about healthy living, then we definitely want to start doing the things to prevent, to enhance, so we can get back to living healthy.
I love that. So
I do want to be just
Go
real
ahead.
quick. So you might think, and it might be a little bit overwhelming, like we have shared so many tips, and then you might think that you have to incorporate all. So I want to just recap what we talked about before about the baby steps. Just choose 1 or 2 that is more appealing to you and start incorporating that, right? Because I have come a long way, and just adding all these tools that now is easy for me. It's effortless, right? But I didn't start like that. I didn't start with all of this supporting. It just took 1 and then another, and then you build that muscle that then I'm able to incorporate more and more. But just wanted to keep that in check, because sometimes it could be it could be overwhelming that we think that we need to do all of these at the same time, and then we don't do anything.
I love that. And I'm so glad that you brought that back in. So I want to do a quick recap. Oh, try that again. I want to do a quick recap of what we have been talking about. So first and foremost, mitochondria are little sub people inside of us. They are a symbiotic relationship, but they are their own unique living little things, and they are constantly responding to signals from our environment, from our food, all of the different areas from different chemicals that are released inside of our body. So just like we started out, sometimes it's about what you're not signaling that is most important. You really want to start being conscious of what kind of signals that you are sending into your body so that you can get the best output in the end. And I think that if we were to put this show into a nutshell, that's kind of what it is. So thank you so much for joining us for today's episode of Mitochondria. What are they, and how do they affect our hormones, and how that we show up? Our mission is to help you to own your health and to reclaim your freedom so that you can enjoy life fully. And not just with this topic from today, but with every single day and over a range of topics. If this episode resonated with you, if you learned something from it, or you think that there is someone else who needs to hear something that we talked about, please share it with a friend or family member who could use a little bit more balance in their own journey. And we'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave us a comment, a review, whatever you think that is. If you do happen to be an oncologist who is really specialized in cancer and want to confirm or deny my proposition earlier, drop that in the comments. And finally, we do want to hear from you. If you have any questions about today's topic, or if there is a wellness challenge, something that you are experiencing in your own life that you would like for us to tackle in a future episode, please reach out and let us know what those are. And remember, your health is the most important tool that you have. So keep building, keep questioning, and we will see you next time.